whiskey blues. Got a case of the whiskey blues. What's up, you guys? Oh, you hope I'm okay. Thank you. Ash, I think you might be new around here, baby. Time frames are a suggestion in my book. Okay, I always make it though, but you know, I be late. Are y'all following Tanner Adele? She's just trying over you. Been hanging at your favorite bar till the quarter past 2. You got me thinking of you drinking cause your love is over. I got a pack of the whiskey blues. Okay, let me stop because YouTube's probably gonna shut me down. What's up, guys? That's Tanner Adele, okay? If you don't know her song Buckle Bunny, do yourself a favor and give it a listen when you get a chance, okay? Yes, Tanner is what's up, right, Nisi? Oh my gosh, love her. I also like it's one of those things where you are on to an artist before everybody else gets on board and you feel really like cool. You know what I mean? So I've been following her for like a year. And now thanks to, Miss Beyonce and her country album, all of these Black country stars are getting found by the mainstream. And Tanner is one of them. And her song Buckle Bunny references Beyonce. So everybody is like, oh my gosh, they got to do a duet. That would be so cool. They also kind of like, favor each other a little bit because they have like similar complexion. And Tanner usually has her hair blonde. So it would be a really cute look. Hopefully, if Bey tours with her Cowboy Carter album, she'll at least have Tanner like open up for her or, do a cameo or something if she goes to like her state or whatever, but which I think is Kentucky. But shout out to Tanner Adele. I love her. She also reposted my comment a couple times. So she made me feel really cool. Shout out to you, Tanner. Okay, let's see. Am I all queued up on all the things and all the streams and all the stuffs? Let's see. I think so. Okay, yes. I'm streaming to YouTube, but I'm not public on YouTube, so people can't watch on YouTube. So hopefully everybody knows that if they are a Coven Witch, they need to come on in the room. I'm trying to get better at making sure that the High Tea Lives are exclusive for the Coven Witches. I didn't want anybody to be like left out or anything, but I've done a few High Tea Lives where everybody, like I streamed on both platforms publicly, and I feel like I gave enough announcements to the Coven Witches to let everybody know that, hello, you need to be in the stream room. And I feel like it's kind of dark. What side is that? Okay, hold on. I got a bag of the whiskey flows. Okay, let me see. Trying to pull my light over here. Okay, don't fall. All right. Okay, here we go. Oh, look at that. Okay, hey. You can see it all live in Technicolor. Is that gonna fall? Okay, I think it'll be good. All right, I think that's good. All right, what next? Wouldn't that be a vibe if she opened for Beyonce? That would be so cool. I would be so like a proud mama. Okay, part of the reason why I was late is because I was arguing with this Christian bitch in my comments. Let's talk about it. Okay, let's get some tunes. Let me light some herb. Everybody drop in the comments what your herb of choice is this evening. If you are drinking an herb, smoking an herb, burning an herb, just channeling the energy of an herb. Yes, Ash, we're going to talk about it because this bitch pissed me off. They always do. And I have thoughts. I have thoughts that I need to get off my chest because I just don't understand. Like, do I show up at your house talking about shit you didn't ask me about? No, I don't. Do I? Do I ever do that to you? You ever woke up one morning and saw me in your house being like, I just wanted to preach the good word of the Wiccan Christ today? Like, have you ever? No, right? You found me. Yes? Is that how that happened? Or was I in your DMs? Okay. I just wanted to just check in about that. Okay? Because that shit confuses the figgity fuck out of me. And sometimes it irritates me, and I don't know. Mercury is about to be a microbraid. Something is conjunct with something else. I don't know what it is, but I'm feeling real spicy today, and I'm really not in the mood for anybody's bullshit. And she just came at the right time, and I was like, you know what? I'll be late to my live. I have time this evening. Okay, what should we listen to? What's that one playlist that doesn't get flagged that I played the last time? Hold on. Let's see. What did I search last time? I think it was copyright free. No ads, R&B, right? I think that's what it was. Yes, relaxing. R&B music for relaxing. I would play the mix that Perrin made for me for OF. But it's all copyright music, but it's really dope. It's a fantastic mix. Okay, we've got peppermint spearmint tea on, very wonderful. There is spearmint and peppermint in this, I think. Peppermint in my smoke blends. Your stream is playing again. Like, am I streaming again? MJ and water, yes. Light a candle, yes. I got my candle lit. I posted about this on my Instagram, guys. If you don't know, shout out to Lucid Candle. They don't sponsor me. They should. Because I'm telling you, if we put the witches onto these, they would blow up. They've been like a very small company ever since I discovered them like 3 years ago. And I've been waiting for them to like blow up, and it has not happened. And I think it has not happened because the witches have not caught on. Because once the witches catch on to this, honey, they gonna sell out. Because this is a hard plastic candle that looks like a regular white candle, but you fill it with liquid like an oil lamp, and it has a cotton wick that goes down into it. And just over time, as the wick gets like burnt, you just pull more of it up, pull more of it up, pull more of it up until it runs out, just like an oil lamp. They're incredible. You can see over there on my altar, I have two big ones for my like illumination candles, just for like when I'm working to keep things lit. I have these around my house. I have them on altars. They're great. If you need a candle for just decor, but also if you need an altar candle that like isn't a spell candle, it doesn't need to be enchanted with any intention. It's just you just need to have a candle. Or if you have like an ancestor altar or a deity altar, an altar where you want to have a candle burning for a long time, this is like the best option. It's called Lucid Candle, Lucid Candle. They're on Instagram, lucidcandle.com, I think is the website. But yeah, if you get them, tag them on Instagram and then tell them I told you about it, because like they should sponsor me because I legitimately love them. They're not cheap. They're like $40 a pop for the small ones, but I will have this forever. So it saves me so much money throughout the year, because if I sometimes, like right now I'm in the middle of a sadhana, so I am sleeping with a candle lit all night every night for this 40-day period. I could probably never do that with regular candles. Like, I would just be blowing through them. I'd have to buy dozens to do that. But with this, I just refill it with liquid this little one lasts like 3 nights. without having to be refilled all night, like 7-8 hours of sleep night. So super worth it. I definitely recommend it. The big candles are supposed to be like 100 hours per fill. The small ones are like 40 hours, which, about 3 nights, I think is, maybe short, a little shy of 40 hours, but pretty good. Pretty good. Oh, it's glitchy. Oh no. I should have charged my battery, but hopefully we're good. Nisi said, as a Christian witch, just know she is not in the saved section. Right. Okay. Let me get myself situated here so we can talk about my thoughts on this, because obviously we'll get into the topic of the night. We're talking about elemental magic, how to know what your strongest elements are, a little bit about connecting and working with them, different systems. I wanted to share with you different systems for like evaluating that question of which elements are strongest within you, because some of them might be obvious, you might know, some of them might be new to you. These boxes are so hard to open. There we go. Okay. But let me get myself situated here. What else? We're going to talk about how to know what your element is, how to work with them, and spell casting from an elemental perspective, because the elements each have their own energy. So in addition to your own makeup and which elements you connect with the most and work well with the most, as well as the elements of the ingredients that you might be using, there's also the energy of that element to take into consideration when it comes to the type of work that you want to do. And my one of my hoodoo teachers, Brother Moses, when I took his Hoodoo Academy, I was a student in Hoodoo Academy, which was like 8-week intensive, taught by him and Doc Cosmic, and the course was phenomenal. And one of the things that we talked about was like elemental correspondence and like the element of the work that you're doing, which is something that I had not thought about. And it was very insightful. So we're definitely going to talk about that for sure. So I've got my sativa hemp herbal blend, because as many of you know, I am doing no THC in 2024, at least not smoking any. So I'm doing hemp flower instead. And then I've got some rosemary on deck, because I'm doing some shadow work, and one of the spirits that I am connected with was like, can you burn some rosemary, please? And I was like, oh, yes, absolutely. Have an abundance. So we're doing rosemary. Oh, and speaking of, I want to give you guys some updates on the graveyard situation, the Black Herman and the headstone. And I want to give you an update on the M13 tarot deck. I definitely should have gotten my battery charger, because we have some things to cover. Okay. Okay. So let's start out with Little Miss Christian Pants. Okay. So first of all, riddle me this, Batman. Why is it that all of the Christians that come up in my comments have private pages with like no posts and 12 followers? Why is that? What is happening there? Are they on the run? Do they have warrants? Why are y'all all on burner pages? Is it the child porn? What are you doing over there? That's what I want to know. First and foremost, before we even get into the subject matter, what are y'all up to? If y'all are so happy go lucky for Jesus, why are you hiding on the internet? I'm so confused by that part. I have never had anybody yet with a public page come up in my comments, toting Bible verses and shit like that. Why is it always private pages? What is that about? Because, but why? Are you on the run? Is it the warrants? What are you up to? Why can't we know who the hell you are? You know what I'm saying? If you're so damn proud of what you have to say, if you have elected yourself as a champion of this message, why are you hiding behind a private page? I'm not hiding. So you come on my public ass page with your private ass page to pretend like you so proud for the word, but not proud enough for us to see who the hell you really are? What's that? Theories? Thoughts? Why do we think that is? They don't want to get canceled. By who? How about if you minded your motherfucking business and stayed where you was at, you wouldn't get canceled? That's what I wonder too. Sometimes I'm like, is this a bot? Is this a troll? But me and Homegirl had it back and forth. So I'm like, this is a real person, I think. Right? Or like, by troll, do we just mean that like their whole purpose of being on the internet is just to like stir shit up? I think that's a reasonable explanation. Hey, Shonda. Keyboard Warriors, Jehovah's Witness Edition. Yes, because what? Please. I was going to say keep your bean pies, but I think that's the Muslims, isn't it, with the bean pies? Jesus needs to fight. Yes, listen, the PR, if I was Jesus, yo, the way everybody would be getting fired, the PR is not, it's not it. We definitely need to put somebody else in charge, right? I know, right? I do. Sometimes I want to do that. Like sometimes I pinned her comment. And the comment is on the post of me giving my altar to my niece, or my niece asking for my altar, which is my highest. Like, I don't know what viral is, but it's my version of viral. It has 35,000 likes, which is crazy. I've never had a post have that happen. So I have gotten the most Christian comments on this post. And I pinned her comment because I feel like, whatever, you make a comment, people need to see it. Now, people might be disappointed in my response because I did call her a rapist. Okay. I called her a rapist. I would love to, you know. They need that level of help. Listen, they're not trying to hear it. They're not trying to hear it. This little girl was really trying to tell me that God has nothing to do with altars. And I was getting ready to break down how many altars are in the Bible, and I was just like, I'm gonna get in the shower and go do other shit. Like, because how can you be so loud and so wrong? So loud and so wrong. The only reason why any of us are here, according to biblical text, is because Noah's altar that he set up after the great flood was so wonderful that God smelt the aroma of the burnt offerings and incense and said, "Never again will I flood the earth. I'm so impressed with your altar of gratitude and offering." God has nothing The God of the Bible has nothing to do with altars? What? So like I just I cannot like I've never seen it's just so mind-boggling to me. Like an entire group of people so willing to fight tooth and nail over something they don't even fucking read or understand. How do you even say those words out of your mouth? That God, the God of the Bible, has nothing to do with altars. How do you even say that? Like, how do you even say those words? Right. No, what church are you at? What church are you going to, sis? So listen, let me tell you why I called her a rapist, right? I called her a rapist because the one thing that the Christians love to do when they come with these comments that nobody asked them for after I respond is to insist that it's all about love. It's all about love. And she's like, why the hate? I don't understand. I'm coming to you with love. I'm coming to you with love. So I said to her, let me ask you something. How would you feel if you were raped and then your rapist was like, but I love you. But I love you. I'm doing this because I love you. Because that is the equivalent to me. When you force yourself on somebody who is not consenting and not interested, you are a rapist. That's where the hate comes from. I hate rapists. And that's what you are. You're in my house, uninvited. You're a rapist. At the very least, you're a home invader. So we'll see how people respond when they read that because I called her a rapist and I don't regret it. Yes. I was in the shower after this, like, thinking about it. You know how you be punching the air and like having arguments with people after the argument? So I was in the shower, like arguing afterwards. And I was like, literally, the only Christians I can fuck with are Christian witches and hoodoos. That's it. I cannot do your average Christian. I just cannot. I cannot. I've tried my very best to be like, all are welcome. It's all good. As long as everybody's respectful, like we can all be here. And I've gotten to the point where it's like, no, y'all can't be here. Y'all are uninvited. You're uninvited. I rescind my invitation because I can't with you. I can't with you. If you want to have a conversation about Jesus, you want to have a conversation about the Bible, first of all, get my fucking consent. Don't force your conversation on me. I didn't ask you any of that. Did not ask you. Did not come for you. And second of all, let's actually have a fucking conversation. But when you say dumb shit like the God of the Bible has nothing to do with altars, we can't even begin to have a fucking conversation. You haven't even read the goddamn book. What are we supposed to be talking about? Shut the fuck up in the name of Jesus. Right? I was just like, I, I'm so confused. So she said to me, she was like, I wasn't forcing. I'm just here to spread the love of Jesus. She's like, you have a good night, sis. First of all, she was white, at least according to her anonymous burner page profile picture. Don't sis me, my Caucasian friend. Do not. Have a good night, sis. No, I'm sorry. Do not sis me. We are not sisters. No. No, you barely invited in the house. We are not sisters. So she's like, have a good day, sis. I said, and may you have the night you deserve. I said, thank you. May you have the night you deserve. But I cannot. It's only the Christian witches and the hoodoos that I can be like in the presence of as Christians, as followers of Christ, because they're the only people that I know that actually follow Christ's teachings. Because her first comment that started the conversation to begin with was, "What does God have to do with witches, or what witches do?" Which I don't even know where that question came out of, because I don't know what the post has to do with God. I didn't say a damn thing about God, I don't think. But I said, no, no, she said, what does Jesus say about witches or something like that? And I said, Jesus said, heal the sick and give generously to the poor. And he said not to judge anybody because that's his daddy's job. And he said to teach children about prayer and the love of God. And, should I go on? But the only people that I know that actually embody the teachings of Christ in their lives are hoodoos and Christian witches. It's crazy. Yeah, Catholics definitely have maintained the most like of the pagan practices. So from that perspective, Catholics are kind of, very different. But I haven't had the opportunity to really have these conversations too much with Catholics, because Catholics mind their business. It's not the Catholics that are in the comments. It's like the evangelical Christians that are in the comments. It's a different breed of Christian. Hey, Leslin. I think because Catholics low key know they're with the shits, so they don't be saying nothing. They see a witch on the internet giving their niece an altar, and they're like, same. The Catholics know what it is. They won't call themselves witches, but they know. They know what they're up to. Well, yeah, I mean, let's talk about the biggest one. Let's talk about the biggest one. Thank you, Leslie. This chick pissed me the fuck off. Um, let's talk about the biggest one. Let's talk about the Christmas tree, y'all. Let's talk about the Christmas tree. And I always forget the passage in the Bible, but God literally says that the children of David, who are like, the precursors of the Christians, are not to cut down trees and affix them in their homes and decorate them with tinsel of gold and silver, because that is a pagan tradition and not for the children of David. It literally says that in the Bible, that you are not to cut down trees, affix them in your homes, decorate them with gold and silver, because this is a pagan practice. Yet I don't know a single fucking holy rolling Christian that doesn't have a big ass Christmas tree in their house every December. Y'all just don't even be reading this book, do you? At all. At all. But want to force it down other people's throats, but have literally like not even fucking cracked the thing open. I'm not a Christian. Why do I know that's in there? Why does it seem like non-Christians know this book better than Christians do? What in the hell is going on? Just read it. Read it on your own. Read it without having somebody read it to you. Read it and ask your own questions and not having somebody tell you what to think about it. Blows my mind. Blows my mind. You were? Yay, I'm glad it was helpful. I love my little travel altar. Love my little travel altar. I have to get a particular type of dirt when I go to Los Angeles in April, okay? So I gotta pack my bag. My altar's gotta have Ziplocs in it this time. Don't worry, I'll post about it. I can't tell you now, but it's gonna be fun. We're gonna do some work. Okay. Yeah, I would imagine. Because Latin Catholics, similar to African American Christians, and the way Black church and white church is so different, it's because there's that African thread that runs through. There's just that last little bit of African spirituality that didn't get eradicated. So the practices have been Europeanized and Christianized, but there's a African sensibility and an African spirituality that runs through that is not lost. So that's why um, European Christianity and African American and Latin Christianity looks different and feels different. Oh, facts. Yes. Okay. A little cake magic in the name of Jesus. I love it. Yes, I do. But yeah, anyway, we won't spend too much time on that. But maybe we'll do a whole nother live where we get into that. I would love that actually. Let me know if you guys would be interested in that. Maybe one of our next high tea lives. Not the next one because the next one we're talking about the dead. But after that, we can maybe talk about Christian witchcraft. We've had Reverend Valerie Love, and yes, happy birthday, Nisi! Happy birthday! Um, It's a bad witch's birthday. Oh. We've had Reverend Valerie Love, who is like the preeminent Christian witch. She is the author of How to Be a Christian Witch and 19 other books on the topic. Witches, prayers for Christian witches, rituals for Christian witches, books about the crystals and astrology in the Bible, and all of that. So she is like an expert in this on this topic, and she's been on the BetterWitch podcast twice now. She's stayed at the shop. Okay. She did a book signing at the shop. She's definitely a friend of mine and a friend of the shop at this point. And so I've learned a lot talking with her, and she's definitely a great resource. So for those of you who are Christian or are interested in how you can blend your Christian beliefs and values with magical practice. Do not believe the hype. They are not opposed at all. And if you are not sure about that, Valerie Love, or aka Kaisi, is an even a much better source of information on why that is than I am. So I highly recommend you follow her. She's on Instagram as Christian Witches, and I think YouTube is Christian Witches as well. Definitely at least get her first book, How to Be a Christian Witch. I should get some copies for the shop. That'd be a great thing to keep around. Okay. Happy early birthday, Nisi. Shonda said she helped me to understand myself so much. Yes, she's dope. Super, super, super dope. Um, Check her out. Okay. And I think she's really important for people of color because so many of us come from Christian homes and Christian backgrounds and think that in order to become witches, we have to reject that. And that's not true at all. And She has shown, and the community that she has of hundreds of Christian witches, the community she has grown, I think, is a beautiful testament to the fact that there are so many people who grew up with Christianity that want to continue to walk in Christ's light and with him as an example and a role model. And I think he is a beautiful role model for all of us, but also want to engage in some of the same practices that he engaged in, what would be called miracles, and that we know is just magic. They want to do that part too. So, follow her for sure. Yeah. Listen, he's a I think a very important force, and I don't know that you have to avoid invoking Christ while working with Hecate, honestly. You know what I mean? She predates him. So it's like she knows who he is. She's like, I'm his auntie. Okay. She knows who he is, you know? Right. Right. So this chick is, in the comments trying to tell me witchcraft's not about God and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, maybe not lowercase g, maybe not your deity God, but the capital G God. Absolutely. And anybody who doesn't understand the difference between a religion's deity and God of the universe, source, all, I just can't even begin. I just can't have a conversation with you. You're too small. Your mind is too small. Your outlook is too small. You look to the ends of the earth. I'm looking to the ends of the universe. And that's not to be like I'm better than you, but like I'm better than you. Sorry. Like I can't bother to bring myself to your level to try to have these asinine conversations with you. So that's why when she's rattling off this bullshit about what's in the Bible and totally inaccurate, I couldn't even bring myself to like respond with actual like biblical evidence, because what is the point? You're not going to go read it anyway. You want somebody in a robe standing at the altar, mind you, to tell you what to think. So go do that. Just do me a favor and keep that shit to your fucking self, because I lived that life. I lived the church life, honey, and I'm good. I'll never go back. No gracias. So just do your thing over there. You and your little lowercase g, do it over there. I just don't understand what the Christian compulsion to go places you're not invited or wanted is. Like the evangelicals are the pick-me-shas of the religious community. If you follow Sprinkle Sprinkle Share a Star Goddess, like they are the pick-me-shas. Like it's like nobody called for you. Nobody wants you. Go be glorious to God by yourself over there. Can't you just be wonderful on your own? You know? Right. You can only reach from the first page to the last page. And you can barely do that because all the shit in the middle you somehow skipped over. We're not the same, babe. Please do not come into the chat like we are the same. It's no. And at some point I called her a little girl. That's what she also looked like she was 20 something years old. And I'm sorry, I'm about to be fucking 40. So unless you're like 30, 35, you a little girl. Don't I am your elder. Do not speak to me like we are just gonna sit down and chat. Mm-mm. Call me by my last name. We're not little friends. She's like, you don't have to be little me. Bitch, you belittled yourself. You belittled yourself when you stepped into the room. Don't don't do that to yourself. You're ridiculous. So anyhow, um, that's that. Updates. Okay, first update. I found out more information about the M13 tarot deck. Do y'all remember the M13 tarot deck that I showed you in the last live? Let me grab it because I have it right over here because I was doing some shadow work with it because it's fabulous for that. Okay, so I have my cards out. Okay. Now, I have a bunch of cards out because I was reading from them. So this is not the whole deck, but just to recap, I am in the middle of a beautiful budding relationship and partnership with a super cool shop in Russia, in Moscow, called Modern Magic. Shout out to Christina, the owner, who reached out to me and was like, we have this idea about connecting with witchy shops overseas. We want to show people that there's, witches all over the world. And like, we think you're cool. You're the Bronx Witch. Like, you're like the New York shop that we know. Like, we want to connect with that. Yes. Okay. I thought it was movie stuff, but guess what? It was not movie stuff. I was wrong. Okay. So first of all, M13 does not stand for movie 13. It stands for Maria 13, who is the designer of the deck, who is Russian native, but has moved to Portugal because they are queer and Russia is crazy anti LGBTQ, which I don't think I realized, to the point where they could go to jail if they showed actual like queer sexual stuff in this deck. So the person who designed it, she's super cool. It's like a punk. I hope her pronouns are she. I'm not sure. So forgive me for assuming, but their pronouns might be they. So I'm just going to go with that for now. So they're a tattoo artist and like punk artist, like super cool. Like we're following each other now. Shout out to Marie. And but they're queer. And yeah, I did not know. I did not know that. I don't know why I didn't realize that. I guess I thought Russia was maybe a little bit more socially progressive in that way. Um, but apparently, like some of the cards that I showed you guys, Christina had to have changed because, like, I think I showed you the Three of Cups with the two chicks and the one guy. I guess the original had I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it now, but had the two women kissing, and Christina had to have that edited because she could go to jail. Like, we're not talking she would get a fine or something. She would go to jail. It is illegal, like criminally illegal. I think this one had to be changed as well. The two women, they're now putting like lipstick on each other. Yeah, one is putting lipstick on the other, but I think originally they were kissing. That had to be changed. So now I'm even more excited about having this deck because they are literally risking their safety, Christina and her shop, to carry it. And it's been flying off the shelves in their shop. Look at that beautiful red gilding. So gorgeous. A little long for my hands. That was my only feedback I gave her. I was like, for the little handed people, it's kind of hard to shuffle. But look how I started shuffling it. I don't know about you guys, but it makes me think this, which seems so appropriate for the subject matter, does it not? I basically have to jerk this deck off to shuffle it. Very sexual. So I told her that. She thought that was funny. I was like, but if you wanted to make them a little smaller, like I wouldn't be mad. But this is the first edition, and there are further edits that Christina is going to have made because of, fears about getting in trouble. So there's only 300 of these that have been made. I have one, and she sent me a second. And we are going to do a giveaway at HQ for the second deck. So one of y'all is going to win this limited edition deck that there's only been 300 made of with these original images, with the sauciest possible images that they could put out. They're going to tone down some of the sauciness in the next editions. Okay. The other thing that they're going to change is Christina was like, so they watched the live, both the designer Marie and Christina watched the last live, and they were like, girl, you had us cracking up with like trying to figure out what the deck was all about. They were like, it has nothing to do with movies, but the Marie girl just like likes movies or whatever, so she put movie characters in it. Christina was worried about licensing and like copyright issues, so she told Marie to take out all of the movie characters, and then a few of them just accidentally got left in. Like she just didn't check carefully enough on the second go round to make sure they were all gone. So the random Anthony Hopkins and like the random Mandalorian are also not supposed to be in there. So those are also going to get changed. So yeah, so that's going to be pretty cool. So random, right? But so that's really cool. Yes. So the giveaway will officially be done through HQ. So you're going to want to be on the HQ mailing list, bronxwitch.com, join the mailing list there. The giveaway is going to happen in April. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of reels together. She and I, we're doing some collabo reels to announce it. And then we'll let people sign up on the newsletter all month long. And then I'll enter everybody's names into one of those like little picker things. And we'll pick a random winner. And then somebody is going to get one of this 300 deck run. So cool, right? Really beautiful. They're so pretty. And when I tell you the way this deck has been hitting for my shadow work, if you want to do shadow work other than the Goetia deck that I showed you guys, the Tarot and Darkness Demon deck, I would say this is a great one because the Tarot and Darkness Goetia deck is, it's definitely darker. So if like demonic imagery is like a little not your style, or if you just don't like the fact that the cards are like basically black, like they're not very like visually interesting necessarily. So if you just don't like that vibe, then you would love this because this is a lot more of a typical tarot deck, 7 of Wands, So it's much more of a typical tarot deck, but it's just very seductive, very sultry vibes of sexuality and, just sort of avant-garde. This one cracks me up. Oh, crazy. I like her. She's crazy. It's the Queen of Pentacles. Okay, Queen of Pentacles. It's giving, with your pentagram lollipop. Okay. So I love this. I love this for shadow work for sure. I would definitely say get it if you are an SW, if you make adult content, if you have an OF, like just anything like that. If you're a dancer, I just see it being really great for all of my all my Scorpio tarot readers, all of my sultry readers that have like a more dark aesthetic. I think you'll love this deck. So stay tuned. Make sure to join the HQ mailing list and keep an eye out. Follow us on Instagram at BronxWitch HQ. Okay. And you can join the mailing list from the link in our bio. Let me put that here just in case you don't know what I'm talking about. And yeah, stay tuned for that giveaway. One other witch is going to have it. And so you and I will be the only witches in the USA that have their hands on this because it's only being sold in Russia right now, I think. So that is pretty cool. So that's the update on that. Black Herman going to the graveyard, the deck, the update on that. Yes, it's gorgeous. It is gorgeous. I'm excited to see who wins it. So some of you will recall that I went to the graveyard recently to locate the unmarked grave of a very famous, very powerful conjureman and magician named Black Herman. I was requested to do this job by one of my 2 hoodoo teachers, Brother Moses Shanase of Colorado, head of the Holy Mountain Spiritualist Temple. He is one of the most knowledgeable people I know on hoodoo and conjure. I think he has a master's in African religions, like super scholarly person. Owns a copper still. Like, who does that? Owns a copper still. Everything he makes according to like ancient grimoire and like ancient biblical text instructions. Like he's one of those purist witches, you know what I mean? Really amazing to watch him work and how much like authenticity he puts into everything, how much research he puts into everything. So he managed to do enough research to track down enough information for us to gather what cemetery Black Herman was buried in, and what like area and like grave marker. The problem is he doesn't have a headstone. So it was going to be a needle in a haystack type situation. The cemetery is 400 acres. Okay. I went to the cemetery with my little bit of information And I may be told a tale or two about being a relative. Okay, you got to do what you got to do. And the people of the cemetery were kind enough to believe my story, my very terribly put together story. I had no evidence. But they went along with it, and they gave me maps and instructions for how to find this grave. I told the whole story of my experience in the graveyard on a live. Yeah, we're all related, right? Right? I'm sure somewhere he's a cousin, somehow, somewhere. Okay. And the people at the cemetery were white, so I, that's probably what they were thinking. Like, whatever, a black person, I don't know. Y'all look alike. We don't know the difference, so they let me in, and uh, I told the story on a live with Brother Moses, which I'll probably post on YouTube. I asked him to download the video and send it to me, which he's supposed to do. So I'll post that up on YouTube. It'll be like the vertical way or whatever, but you'll still be able to watch it. I won't rehash it all tonight, so we can get into our topic. And in April, our next High Tea Live is going to be about working with the spirits of the dead. So I'll tell more of the story of what the actual experience was and what it is like to be communicating with the dead while doing this type of work. What signs to look for, how to know that you have their blessing, how to ask permission, what is proper spiritual protocol when going to someone's grave, what should you take, what should you not take, what should you leave, what should you not leave, how should you arrive, how should you leave, things of that nature. We'll get all into that in the next live. But I did my thing. I got the dirt, both from his grave and from the crossroads near the grave. I sent that dirt off to Colorado, where Brother Moses did what he needed to do with it, and then sent it off to his partner in crime, Dr. Cosmic Nuage, who was the other hoodoo teacher of Hoodoo Academy and the other incredibly knowledgeable hoodoo man and conjurer that I know. So blessed and grateful to know these men and learn from them. So Cosmic is known for his incredibly well made, incredibly powerful hoodoo powders. That's kind of his area of expertise, is making these really amazing powders. So he took the dirt, combined it with black cat bone and several other important conjure curios that Black Herman would have worked with, and that are used for communicating with the spirit not only of the dead, but of the dead magical practitioners. Made an incredible powder out of it, and then used that powder to actually conjure Black Herman to have a conversation with him. And he asked him several things. The first thing he asked him was your dirt properly obtained and paid for? And Black Herman said yes, which was like, goodness, okay, because that was my job. So I got the thumbs up. I did that right. All was good. I left the right offerings. I did what I was supposed to do. Thank you, Brother Moses, for sending me the right offerings. I did what I was supposed to do. All was good. I did not offend. I treaded the way I was supposed to. And that was just a beautiful, pat on the back kind of a moment. When a dead person tells you you did something right, it's like, thanks. Um, So that was the first question. The next question he asked was, do you want a headstone? Because people got really excited when I talked about maybe we should come together as a community to give him a proper headstone. So does he want that? Yes, he does want a headstone. But he was very clear that he does not want the location to be publicly known. He wants people to go on the same journey to search him out that I went on. He wants them to get the same amount of information that I had and then take that and go find him. And this is very typical of conjuremen. It is very typical of hoodoo practitioners, men and women, to request to be buried in unmarked graves or to be buried in obscure locations because they know that people are going to be coming for their dirt and petitioning them on the other side, and they want to rest. If you spent your whole life working spells for people, you probably want a break and don't want to be bothered to work spells for people in the afterlife. So conjure men and women oftentimes have unmarked graves on purpose so that they cannot be bothered. So this is very typical of him. But he does want a headstone now, but he doesn't want it to be publicly known. If you're going to petition him to work miracles in your life, he wants you to be legitimate about your search. This is not I don't think he wants to turn into kind of like a Marie Laveau situation where 60 million people show up and are, asking for, can you help me find my left shoe? Nonsense. Like, he's not trying to be bothered for that kind of stuff. But he doesn't want people to have to work as hard as I did to find him. He does want, if you're willing to go on that journey to look for him, when you find him, he wants it to be obvious that you're in the right place. It wasn't obvious for me that I was in the right place. I had to have a conversation with a bird to be sure, basically. And thankfully, like I said, I know what signs to look for when I'm in the graveyard, that I'm in the right place and I'm doing the right thing. And the bird showed up, knock, 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 told me what I needed to know, blah, 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 blah. Had a conversation with a bird. I knew I was in the right place. But that might not be something that would be so easy for you. So now you're going to have a headstone. So when you get there, you know you're in the right place. So he does want a headstone, but he doesn't want to publicly advertise where it is. The next thing that he was very clear about was he does not want donations for this headstone. He is a proud man. He was a very wealthy man. He was incredibly successful as a magician. He lived up in here in Harlem during the Renaissance. He was friends with all the baddies, all of the movers and shakers of Black Harlem of the Renaissance. He was the David Copperfield, the David Blaine of his day. He would have been like at the party with Jay-Z doing card tricks in the corner. So he was not a poor man. He was not a beggar. He was not somebody who he died with money. He died on tour. And his manager actually charged people a dime to come see his dead body. So he was making money after he died. So he does not want charity. What he does want, though, is to work. He passed away, I think he was buried in 1934. So it's been almost 100 years of him being buried in this unmarked grave and nobody bothering him for work. Nobody coming to petition him for anything. So he's had his rest and he's ready to work. And by work, he means he's ready for people to call on him and ask him to do things in the supernatural, and he's ready to show up and do it. So what Doc Cosmic did after making the powder was to send that back to Brother Moses, and Brother Moses has used that powder to consecrate prayer cards and candles that have been made in Black Herman's image. And I am going to have a case of black and a case of white Black Herman candles and prayer cards coming to the shop in April. 25% of the sale of all of these cards and candles are going to go to the headstone. So Brother Moses is already selling some, Doc Cosmic will be selling some, and I will be selling some. And together we are going to take 25% of what we make from the candles for the gravestone, which Hoodoo Moses has already picked out, and it's black granite. And it's badass, which makes perfect sense for Black Herman to have a badass black granite headstone. It's going to look nice. It's going to stand out from the other headstones too. How exciting is that? Right? Yo, when listen, I love y'all. That first candle is mine, baby. That first candle is mine, baby. I will put them on sale after I do what I got to do with Black Herman first. I love you, but I did the work to get the dirt. So me and him are going to have a conversation first and we're going to see what it's all about. He said he wants to work. I have some ideas and some requests. So we're going to get that done. And then I'm going to put them up for sale in the shop. But I am going to do a pre-order. Okay, I will do a pre-order so y'all can claim yours before they sell out in the shop, because I'm just getting one case of each color. I was like, I want a black and a white. Brother Moses was like, what do you know? Like, what do you want? I was like, can I do a case of black and a case of white? And I didn't think that white was going to be possible because I thought that the design for the outside of the candle is white, but it's not. It's white and black. So it's going to look good on black and white candles. And Brother Moses is he's just so like meticulous. He took the image of Black Herman from the cover of his book and a picture of Black Herman in his conjure robes and had somebody design them together. So he's in the pose that he is on the cover of his book, but instead of that outfit, he's wearing his conjure outfit. It's a dope ass picture, boss ass picture. So cool. We should put that picture on the headstone. I'm also going to get for the shop copies of his book because Black Herman has a grimoire, y'all. He wrote his own book with rituals, recipes, spells, and his instructions on magic, illusion, and conjure. And the book is still in print. So I am going to get some copies of the book because I really do encourage you, if you get the candle, to either get the candle and the prayer card, or probably even better, get the candle and the book so that you will have his own instructions for working magic. So if there's something that he's got in there that you want, you should, I think it would be a good idea to use his spell or use his recipe for what it is you want. Okay. I got that good. And listen, so we were talking, and Brother Moses was like, are we creating a folk saint right now? And I was like, yo, we are creating a whole folk saint. We are literally elevating somebody to folk sainthood. Thank you, my love. You need it. Honey, I was like, oh my gosh, this spirit is so wild the way that it works. Like, this could not be showing up in my life at a more perfect time. It is incredible. And I'm just like, I'm honored that they would include me. You know what it is to have your teachers call on you and be like, yo, you want to be a part of this? Like, the way I'm honored, hey, Jeanette, is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like, I'm so honored. Of all the people, I'm just like, wow. Wow. Yes, I might be one of the few witches that they know in the Bronx, but I am certainly not the only witch that could have gotten to that cemetery. They could have called on other witches that they know, and they called me, and I'm just so honored and really excited about this because when people think about hoodoo and conjure, they do not think about New York City. And if you are a person of color in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, like if you're in the Northeast, you probably feel really disconnected from your hoodoo roots because you feel like you got to go down south to have a legitimate connection to hoodoo. And it's so amazing for me to be able to show people and show witches that no, hoodoo and conjure was happening here in New York. Mass migrations of Black people from the South happened from the 1900s all the way through the 60s and 70s. And they brought with them hoodoo and conjure magic. And they didn't stop practicing. It just looked a little bit different. You know what I mean? They weren't in the fields anymore. Now they were in the factories, but they were still doing that magic. They were still working it. And for him to do it on the level that he was doing it and reach the level of success that he was at and do it in such a cosmopolitan, like New York kind of way, to be famous, touring around the country, doing magic shows and then working spells on the side for people, like, that's so New York. And it is really cool to bring to the Bronx the history and the legend of this hoodoo man, so that people who live in the Northeast know you do not have to go to New Orleans, to Louisiana, to Alabama to connect with your hoodoo roots. Our hoodoo ancestors were up here and they were hoodooing. Okay? They were hoodooing just as much as anybody else. And we have this amazing example of that in Black Herman. And the same way the people of New Orleans have Marie Laveau, we have Black Herman. And I really think it's going to get to that level where, like, Brother Moses said this. He was like, 20 years from now, we're going to see, like, or not even 20 years from now, he was like, I feel like we're going to see like a Netflix documentary about Black Hermit as a result of our work to bring his name back into popularity and back into notoriety and being well known again. And yeah, he's like very quickly rising to the level of like patron saint of HQ in a lot of ways, or one of, because I certainly cannot dismiss or disrespect La Dominadora, because she is the very first saint to ever show up for us. But she's an actual saint. This is more of a folk saint type of situation. And yeah, it's amazing. It's like a trifecta. Prince High John, Black Herman, and Martha are like kind of coming together in this very powerful collaboration that has me at the center, which is like so freaking humbling. Thank you. Thank you very much. I felt that way when I was sitting at his grave. I felt like he was like, okay, you came correct. You came correct. You came with the right level of reverence. You know what I'm saying? You came with care. You came with the right offerings. You came correct. You got the stamp of approval before you, even came here. Right? Our own folk saint. A New York City folk saint. Like, what? That's dope. That is so dope. And like, to me, it's like, it is hoodoo in the city. Yes. And it's like, it's so New York, yo. You know what I mean? Because like, you have the hoodoos of the South that are like on their rocking chairs with their head wraps and stuff. And he's like, he looked like Usher at the Super Bowl. Okay. His outfits, bling bling, big old blingy crosses, okay, and nice robes, good quality silky shirts and stuff. Like, he was no country bumpkin. He might have come from Kentucky, but he definitely left that shit behind and was very much a cosmopolitan kind of city man, hanging with the Langston Hugheses and, all the cool, rich Black people in Harlem. You know what I mean? Like, I think he was married, but I don't think that means a damn thing, because I just know the baddies were all over him. He was good looking, thick mustache, hairline was all the way to here. I know. Okay. I know his little black book was booked, busy. Okay. He was definitely giving that New York cosmopolitan swag. Um and in typical New York fashion, he learned how to take what he learned, on the farm in the country in Kentucky, and turned it into a money making enterprise and become famous off of it. Um, that is so cool. That is really, really cool. So I cannot wait to get my hands on these candles. Like I said, I'm going to do a pre order. So even before I am done with what I need to do, I will make it available so that you guys can lock in what you want. 25% of all of the sales are going to the headstone. I would love to see us raise the money for the headstone by the fall. I think that would be kind of cool to time it up maybe near the staycation, near Samhain, Halloween, honoring the ancestors. Feels like the right time of year to do it before the winter comes. So I would love to get there by the fall. Brother Moses says when we reach $1,000 in funds towards the headstone, we'll call the cemetery and start seeing what the process is for making the arrangements. But he found the headstone, it's black granite, and it's going to run about $1,400. I want to say 15 because I feel like there'll be taxes and like other stuff. So let's say $1,500 for the headstone. And when we get to 1,000, we're going to call the cemetery and start making arrangements with them to find out what's the process, how long is it going to take, blah, blah, blah. Can we have a ceremony to put it in? I'm sure Brother Moses and Cosmic will want to come to New York for the actual unveiling. So that would be so awesome. So yeah, so let's make it happen, y'all. And I think the really cool thing is this is not donations. This is not charity. Black Herman was very clear. 2 people donated, by the way, already to the headstones. I owe you a candle. Okay, so I know your names. I know Keisha donated, and I forgot who the other person was. It was somebody on YouTube, but I can look through my thing. I will be reaching out to the 2 of you to make arrangements for you to get your candle, because Black Herman was very clear. He is not taking donations. He wants to do the work. You need to petition him for miracles in your life. He will show up for you and put in the work and work for that money towards the headstone. If you decline, because obviously I can't force the candle on you, but if you decline, I'm going to take your donations and we are going to give it to the cemetery for like donation to the cemetery for like general upkeep or whatever. Okay. But it cannot go to the headstone. He was very clear about that. He will not take donations. So y'all have to buy candles. You have to buy cards. You have to buy his book. 25% of any of those things are going to go to the headstone. And I think what I'll do is I'll make a bundle. So the candle, the card, and the book will all be available separate, but I'll also do a bundle. So if you want to get all 3, it'll be like a lesser price or whatever. But 25% of the bundle will go to anything with Black Herman's name on it. 25% is going to the headstone. Okay. All right. How is it to have to keep our practices close? We out here. We out here. Yeah. Oh, hey, Nuri. Yeah, it's really cool. Like you guys are all a part of it. Think about this, like how cool this is. Like 20 years from now, when new witches are talking about Black Herman the same way they talk about Marie Laveau, where it's like, do you know where his grave is? Oh, let's go find it. Like, oh, there's a shop in the Bronx that that started it. Like we gotta go there. Like imagine knowing that you are a part of that like you bought one of the first candles that made the headstone happen. Like you're the reason why new witches in the Northeast that are interested in hoodoo, that are interested in conjure, have this folk saint that's become like the representation of conjure in the city. Isn't that cool? I don't know. Stuff like that like geeks me out. Like I think that is so cool. To be a part of hoodoo history, you know? Like, wow. I think that's so awesome. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's so cool. And speaking of Nuri being in the room, shout out to the book club. Tonight's meeting was awesome. I was able to pop in for a little bit of it. It starts at 7, which is like when I'm closing the shop. So unfortunately, I'm going to be like always late. But I was able to pop in for a little bit and let everybody know that, as soon as I found out that he had a book, because, okay, there is a book that I learned about when I was doing my research on him called Mumbo Jumbo, but it's not his book. This is a book written where he's the main character. So somebody wrote a fiction book where he's the main character. It's kind of like an Afrofuturist fiction book, and he's the main character. But what I did not know is that he wrote a book with his spells and rituals on hoodoo and conjure and magic. And when I found that out, I was like, oh, um, I know we've talked about the elements not once. That's next. That's next. It's next. Okay. And this is the element of spirit, technically. Um, but when I found out that he had a book, I was like, okay, we got to have that in the shop. But I also think that we should read it in the book club. So, spoiler alert, for the second half of the year's books, his book is probably going to be one of them. I really feel like we should read it together and, you know, get into it and see what magic they was working back then. So I think that's cool. The night is young. Yeah, we're actually doing good. I'd be up here running my mouth for like 2 hours. So this is actually perfect timing. But I really wanted to, yeah, switches don't sleep. Listen, the next high tea, just so you guys know, is at midnight. Okay, heads up. For a couple of reasons. One is because it is after Witches of Color, I think. No, wait, does that make sense? Yes, it's after Witches of Color because that's when the full moon is. So it's after Witches of Color, which is at 10. All right. So that's one reason. But the other reason is we are going to be talking all about the dead. So being at the liminal hour felt really right. So it's going to be late. You might have to watch the replay. And I totally understand. Okay. No judgment from me. But in case it's confusing what time it's happening, it's on Sunday night, but technically that's Monday morning because it's midnight. So for me, that's Sunday. For me, it's night until I go to bed. All right. So that's Sunday night, but it's going to be after Witches of Color. Yeah, I'm excited. I think this is going to be a good one for us to read. But heads up about that. So we're going to be meeting at midnight next month on technically it's the 22nd. You could say 11:59 on the 21st. To talk about the element of spirit specifically. What does that mean? I've had new witches ask me, what is the difference between spirits and spirit? And we're going to talk about the difference between the two. And we're going to be talking about spirits next time. All right. The spirits of beings that formerly had bodies on this earth, that were formerly contained in mass and matter on this earth, and now no longer have bodies, but are still accessible for one reason or another. And we're going to focus specifically on the dead people, dead pets, and how we communicate with them, what happens after somebody dies from a witch perspective. Why are those spirits accessible to us? When and for how long? And why would a witch be interested in that in the first place? Why do we consider the spirits of the deceased to be of any use to us? Which ones should we work with? Which ones should we not? And how do we work with them? After getting the stamp of approval from Black Herman himself, that this is actually my first time going to the graveyard to do work with somebody that I was not related to. I've gone to the graveyard many, many times, but always for my own relatives. And so I've always assumed that they're going to be happy with what I'm doing because they're mostly just happy that I'm there. You know what I mean? The rest of the family just buries them and forgets that they're there, right? So they're just happy that I'm there. To have somebody that I am not related to say, good job. You did that right. You handled that right. That was wonderful for me, because that just tells me, okay, I really know how to deal with spirits of the dead, period. Not just my own ancestors, but period. And I can teach other witches how to do what I did, so that if they want to petition the spirit of somebody that they're not related to, if they want to go to the graveyard to do whatever you're trying to do there, I can give you some guidance on how to do it properly and make sure that you don't come back home on no shit. Okay? So that's what we're going to talk about. Yay. Okay. Okay. Good. 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 Yes. Be there. Be there. Be there. Next month for the April high tea. The element of spirit is different than spirits. Spirits are more like energetic impressions that are left on this world as a result of a life having been led. And that impression is left essentially in the vibration that it is in when the body ceases to be, when it ceases to be contained by the body. And so that is why spirits, some of them are not so great. Some of them are wonderfully elevated and beneficial guides in our lives, because that impression is essentially at the same level that it was at when it was contained in a body. And we can go through a process that you may have heard of called elevation, where we raise the vibration of a spirit that maybe left the world in not so great of a place, or even if they left it, in a great level, and we just want to continue to add to that. But elevating spirits is the act of pouring energy and high vibrational energy specifically into that impression to raise its vibration. And the reason why we want to do that is because high vibrational frequencies are helpful to us, whereas low vibrational frequencies might actually interfere in our lives if they're attached to us in some way. So we elevate the spirits of the dead around us, so that rather than interfering with our lives, they are beneficial to us. That's spirit's energetic impression. Spirit, on the other hand, is an element. It is a component to life on earth. Earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, at least in the Western construction, are the 5 elements. In Eastern construction, they also include metal and wood. In the West, we would lump all of that into earth. We would just say all of that is earth. But in the in the Eastern way of looking at the elements on earth, they break earth down into earth, metal, and wood. However you decide to break it down, these are the building blocks of life in the natural world on earth. And these are elements, building blocks, that make up life and therefore are available to all of us and useful to all of us when it comes to spell work. You can think of the elements as being the ingredients in your spell, including spirit, and spirits as being beings that could help you with your spell. They're not ingredients. They are like energetic assistants, spiritual assistants. Whereas spirit, the element of spirit, is an ingredient that you would put into your spell work. When we are making anything, a pie, a cake, a cocktail, whatever you are putting together, you are going to pay attention to the ingredients, because the ingredients that you use are going to change the nature of what you're making and going to impact whether or not what you're making comes out as a success. So we take those same things into consideration when we are crafting and creating spells, or when we're making spell ingredients like our powders or our candles. We ask ourselves, what elements do we need in this recipe to make what we are trying to make? When we are casting spells, I think one of the best descriptions of this that I've ever seen in a book is in Matt Oren's Psychic Witch. Highly recommend it. We read it last year in the book club, or maybe the year before. And Matt does this really beautiful job of breaking down the levels of existence, basically, into 7 levels, which is something very common in lots of practices. There are 7 chakras. There are 7 major notes in music. There are 7 colors on the rainbow, like color spectrum. So the number 7 is significant. And Matt talks about 7 areas of existence as a human: the ethereal, the psychic, the mental, the emotional, the physical, the spiritual, and I think I'm missing one. Um, the divine, I think. And all of those areas of existence need to be clicked into alignment in the direction of what it is you are trying to create with your spell. When you do that and everything is in alignment, you have a nice, beautiful avenue between you and the divine. You have no blockages in the way between what's in your head and what's being spoken in your mind, what's being held in your heart, and the divine source, creation, universe, whatever you want to call it, but the cosmic energy where all possibilities are. You want to clear everything out of the way by putting everything in alignment: your mental in alignment, your emotional in alignment, your psychic in alignment, everything in alignment towards the intention that you have. And then that is going to create a clear channel from your lips to the universe. And you're going to be able to speak into the universe and say, hey, billions of possibilities out there. This is the one that I want. Here's a clear channel to send it to me. Out goes your request. Back comes your results. So when we are putting everything in the alignment, we have the physical to take into consideration. And this is where our ingredients and our elements come into play, because these are the building blocks of the physical world. So we want as many things having to do with our physical body and the physical spell, the physical powder, whatever, to also be in alignment with that intention. It's all about layering the intentions in the right direction and getting as many of these layers to line up the way that we want it to be. We need a whole class on spirit versus spirit. So we're kind of doing that now because we're talking about spirit, the element, as one of the 5 elements, the building blocks of the natural world. And then next high tea, we're going to talk all about spirits. So don't miss it. All right. Source versus energies with purpose. Source. Yes. Yeah. That. Yeah. You can think of it that way. Yeah. Energies with purpose, or energies with properties. Energies with properties, because they don't have intention. Well, you don't have to have an intention to be purpose. They serve a purpose. Energies that serve a purpose. Energies with properties. Energies that serve a purpose. Is how I would say that. Okay. But yeah, so when we are making sure that everything is in alignment for our intention, for the spell that we are trying to cast, as many things as we can get in alignment with that intention, the better. And that includes our spell ingredients. And the elements are the building blocks of the spell itself. So if we are calling something into our lives that is of an emotional nature, for example, let's say we are casting a spell to change somebody's emotional constituency. Maybe somebody is angry at you, and you are trying to dead that. Maybe you have a boss or somebody who's upset with you for something and you don't want it to impact you and cause you to lose your job, or you have a spouse that is upset with you and you don't want to lose your relationship. If you're going to be manipulating the emotional, and we're trying to put as many things in alignment with our intention as possible, then we would want the building block of our spell to be water. Water is the element that's related to the emotions. So I'm going to want to work with water and have the ingredients of my spell be in alignment with emotional change and emotional shift. All right. If I was trying to get rid of somebody, and this is why Hotfoot is so popular in hoodoo for getting rid of people. If I was trying to get rid of somebody, and my intention was to drive them away or prevent them from being able to come into a certain space, I might want to work with fire. I might want to create a fiery barrier around me or make the situation very uncomfortable for them so they no longer want to be there. But that's not my only option. I might also work with earth for that intention because maybe I'm not trying to drive them away. I just want to bury them in place. I want them to not be able to go anywhere. I want them to no longer have an impact on me or be able to interfere with what I'm doing in life. So I might bury them in a pot and work with earth. I might put them under some rocks and work with earth. So asking yourself the question of what is it that I am trying to do and which of the building blocks, which of the elements has the right energy for my intention is going to help you with your spell work and help you decide what type of spell would be best for the work that you're trying to do and which elements you should rely on heavily in that spell, right? So obviously, if I'm doing a hot foot spell, I've got herbs in my hot foot powder and I've got a candle that's made out of wax and, other things. It's not like the other elements aren't present, but I'm really emphasizing the fire element in this work. And I'm going to be putting as much fire into it because I'm trying to burn somebody away or, what have you. Another thing to take into consideration about elemental magic is which of the elements are the strongest for you. Which elements are you most sensitive to and therefore probably have the easiest time of connecting with and getting to move in your direction. And there are a couple of ways that you can investigate your own elemental makeup. One of the ways, and probably like one of the more like fun ways, because it's also helpful in other respects, is your astrology. So if you've never pulled your birth chart, I highly, highly recommend that you do it. Every witch should have her or his or their birth chart printed out in their book of shadows. Keep it on hand because it's going to tell you so much about who and what you really are beyond this body and this mind and the parts of yourself that you can see. Your astrological makeup tells you who and what you are cosmically, who and what you are on a divine kind of a level. And your birth chart will tell you about the elements that are heavy in your makeup. And that is going to allow you to understand probably why you're already attracted to certain elements to begin with. But it's also going to tell you which elements you work well with. So if you have a lot of fire in your chart, yes, candle magic is probably going to be really effective for you. You are probably going to want to light your petition on fire and work with the ashes rather than writing it and putting it underneath your glass candle or burying it in a pot or flushing it down the toilet or what have you. Because working with the element of fire is going to be very natural for you. And it's almost a way of putting yourself into the spell. So look up your birth charts. You don't need to know the time of your birth. So if you're unsure about that, in order to find out your elemental breakdown, you need the time of your birth in order to find out the houses, what signs your houses are in, or what house each sign is in. I always forget which way you're supposed to say it. But you don't need that information for determining your elemental breakdown. You just really want to know the placements of your planets. What signs are your planets in? And that's going to tell you a lot about the breakdown of fire, air, earth, and water in your personal chart. Okay. Calm that ass spell. Actually, I'm really glad that you point that out, because that was something else I wanted to share with you guys, kind of off on a tangent. I'll get back to other ways to determine your elemental breakdown. But that was a really good reminder of something that Brother Moses taught me in Hoodoo Academy. And he was saying that, listen, just because a spell is the usual go-to for a certain type of working doesn't mean that it's going to be the best for your situation. So always think about your situation as well. Don't just kind of go cookie cutter based on what everybody else would say. So for example, hot foot spell. A hot foot spell is used typically to get rid of somebody, to get somebody to go away, to make them stop coming around you, what have you. If that person has a very aggressive and fiery temperament, if the reason why you don't want them around you is because they are a fireball, they have a fiery temper, they rage hot, they are very aggressive, maybe you have like a scary stalker situation or a violent ex, something like that, you might not want to put fire to fire. That whole saying, fight fire with fire, is crazy. Why would you do that? That might not be the best idea. If you have somebody who's generally harmless, they're just super annoying, or maybe they're interfering. Maybe you got a chick that keeps coming around your man. You want her to get out of that job, go away, or whatever. She's not really a danger. She's just somebody you don't want around. Then a hot foot might be a perfect thing to get her to suddenly quit or suddenly move out of town or whatever. But if you have somebody that is aggressive and fiery and dangerous, you might not want to add fire to the situation. You might want to calm that ass down. And I actually created an ointment and a powder because I had a client back in the day when I was doing spell work for people. I had a client come to me with this exact situation. She had a very dangerous stalker. This guy was sending her pictures of mutilated rabbits and animals that he was killing. Okay. Crazy, dangerous type shit. And at first, she was just trying to ignore him. He kept creating fake pages and following her. Every time she would block him, he'd create a new page, blah, 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 blah. She was trying to fight it herself with like love and light. And she was just trying to like pray it away. And then this motherfucker messages her with her mother's address and says, I know where your mother lives. And she was like, Allie, hey girl, you do spells for people? And I was like, not typically, but for this, absolutely yes, we are not letting this happen. So I went to Spirit. They were like, yeah, girl, you got the okay, go do your thing. And I helped her with that. And what I created for that spell was not a hot foot, because I was like, that's the last thing we need. So I made a calm that ass down. That's not what I called it. What did I call it? I called it my Blue Star ointment. Did y'all ever use Blue Star ointment when you were a kid for like mosquito bites and stuff? My mom had this weird stuff from the pharmacy in a white jar with a blue star on it that was called Blue Star ointment, I think. It was like a camphor ointment that was like for muscle rubs, but also for mosquito bites. It was like Vicks, but for black people in the South. Anybody have the Blue Star ointment? When I was making this ointment, Spirit had me remember the Blue Star ointment. So I made this ointment that was very intense, lots of camphor and menthol, but it was also cooling because the Blue Star ointment, it was like it would heat up. It was kind of like a Bengay. It would get warm at first and then it would cool down. Very minty, very mentholy, very camphory. So I made an ointment like that and a powder based on that. And we cooled his ass right down and she never heard from him again. He also happened to be surrounded by water. When I did divination, I found out that he was surrounded by water where he lived. So it made sense for me to call on the element of water to surround him. And basically, the spell that I worked was this was going to cool his ass down and make him lose interest in her. And should he ever turn his attention to her again, all of the aquatic animals around him, because he lived like in the Florida area, all the snakes, all the frogs, all the gators were going to come up in his house. And anytime he thought about her, he was going to have snakes, frogs, gators, and any other type of gross aquatic animals basically show up in his presence. And yeah, we never heard from him again. So all is good and all is well. You like horoscopes.astroseek.com. Very good. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Ash. I personally like cafeastrology.com. Another site to think about. I would say as long as your report is a full report and not just the picture of the chart, if you're not an astrologer, reading your chart might not be something you are very adept at. And then even if you are able to read the chart, what does it mean? So pull your chart on a site that also gives you a full report. It sounds like Ash is saying horoscopes.astroseek.com. We'll do that for you. Cafe astrology is what I usually recommend to my better witches because it does the same. Use both. What elements will, oh, we have a question. What element will you use if you pull your Western chart and Eastern chart, which are different? Oh, okay, great question. Either. If you are going to also be using Western astrology in your working, like let's say you're going to be picking a particular moon phase or a particular day of the week to work with, and you're doing it all based on Western calendars, then I would probably use your Western chart. But it's not like either one is better or worse. They're both accurate. But if you're going to use your elemental breakdown from your Vedic astrology chart, and then use Western dates and times and planetary phases, the two don't go together. They're going to be off. So I would pick one and just stick with that for all of your computations. Your grandma had the Blue Star ointment? Niecy too? Okay. Yes. My mom had the Blue Star ointment. I've never seen it anywhere outside of the South. I've only seen it in the South. And I've never seen it in stores either. I've only seen it in old ladies' cabinets. So I don't even know where they be getting it. Okay. Takara said it's always Florida. I don't know what's happening down there, but it's always Florida. But yeah, sure enough, he was in Florida. But that's okay. We calmed that ass down. We had to get that ass down. Now, in reverse, another client working, this was a old high school friend. It's funny. Shout out to her. She's lurking in the community. We were friends in high school, and she is Indian, but her family wasn't Hindu. They were Christian. And they did not like me and my witchy black ass. They were super Catholic, and they did not like her hanging out with me. And she was very much scared. And we would have these long conversations where she would try to tell me about God and the Bible and blah, 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 blah. And I kept trying to explain to her, girl, what is that doing for you? Like, I've never tried to convert anybody. So it wasn't like I was trying to convince her to be a witch. I didn't care. Do you? But I was just trying to help her understand that me going to the witchy stores after school was not evil. And her parents did not have to be creeped out by me, and it was okay for them to give me a ride home, because they literally would not give me a ride home and stuff because I was into witchcraft and I wore pentacles and stuff like this. So whatever. Years later, we kind of stopped being friends after a while because I was like, I can't fuck with you. Like, I like you a lot. I want to be friends with you, but we don't have enough in common. And she kind of stopped being friends with me because she was like, I can't keep trying to fight with my parents about why I'm friends with you. So we sort of fell off of friendship after our freshman year. Years later, who's emailing me talking about, I found you on YouTube and I'm interested in witchcraft now. And talking about, I'm so sorry that I was so judgmental when we were younger. I was just really scared and I was really like brainwashed in a conservative family. And da-da-da. Let me stop that because I love her. I appreciate her. I don't want to make it seem like I'm making fun of her. I'm not. It is not easy being 14 years old and, having all of these things that you're being taught and all of this fear that's being shoved down your throat that you're going to burn in a fiery hell and all this stuff. And then this chick in school is like, come buy crystals with me. And she's like, oh my God, she's trying to drag me to the Netherlands. So, it's not her fault, but it's just very funny to me that years later, she's like, hey, can you help me with something? I was like, yeah, okay, I got you. So she had a neighbor situation. She moved into this neighborhood and basically her neighbors hated her. She moved into this like rich, white, conservative neighborhood. And here comes this little brown girl who can afford to live in this neighborhood and buy a house because she got money. Her parents had money. And then she grew up, went to a private school, got a really good job, made good money, was smart enough not to have any fucking kids. So she didn't have nobody leeching off her money. So she had money. And so she bought a house in this neighborhood. Smallest house in the neighborhood, but still, she was in the neighborhood. And they did not take too kindly to that. And they were literally trying to like force her out. Like they were being mean to her. She would come home and they would like intentionally put their trash cans in front of her driveway, park their cars in front of her driveway, throw stuff over her fence and like all kinds of like weird shit and then act like they didn't do it. And it was like some weird bullying shit that they were trying to do. So she called me about that. So that we did a hot foot situation and we also called on a particular spirit for some protection for that. So that was a perfect hot foot type of a situation where it was like, okay, no problem. We needed to set up a parameter. We needed to make it really uncomfortable for anybody to come up on your yard, come up on your fence, be up on your porch, put their car in your driveway and any of this dumb shit. We're going to see tires blown out. We're going to see trash cans falling over before they get there. We're going to see people trying to throw things in your yard and having it blow back on them. We're going to see all of that stuff with Hotfoot. We need, you are a woman living by yourself. You're a small woman living by yourself in a neighborhood with a whole bunch of big scary white dudes. We definitely gonna put fire on this situation. Okay. Because nobody was like violent. It wasn't a situation where putting more fire was only going to amplify. They were just being passive aggressive pieces of shit trying to make her feel unwanted. And so we just needed to make sure that they knew that she was a big dog. We needed to give her some more confidence. So I called on a particular spirit to help her feel more protected in the home, basically to have a man in the house with her, so that she felt not so alone and so that she could walk around with her chest out and her head up high on some like, yeah, fuck with me type shit. So she needed that fire. So we needed the fire element for that work. So that's just a side note. Take into consideration your work. Even though there might be a tried and true type of energy that usually people would turn to, ask yourself, okay, but does it really apply in this situation? Something like a hot foot might be perfect in one situation, but might be too fiery for what you're trying to do. And we might need to do something different. But back to the question of how do you determine the elements that you are going to work well with? Birth chart, your astrological makeup is a really great way of looking at it. Ayurveda has been very helpful for me. Ayurveda is basically the medical science component to yoga. So this is a Hindu, Buddhist originating science. And in Ayurveda, there are 3 body types, and I always forget the names of them, but it's like Pitta, Vata, and something else. And let me look them up. But each of these 3 body types are based on an elemental composition as well, and it will tell you if you study Ayurveda a little bit. what types of elements are heavy in you based on your dosha. Here we go, your dosha types. So there's vata dosha, there's the pitta, and the kapha dosha, and each of these have different um, constituencies. That is also very good if you're like trying to do things like lose weight or improve your health. Knowing what your body type is great, because not every diet, not every type of exercise is good for everybody. But the Pitta dosha, Pitta, is made up of the fire and water element together. That's me. My astrological composition is both fire and water in equal parts, but also when I look at the description of what a Pitta body type is, I match all of those um, elements of a Pitta body type. The Vata dosha is air, and the force behind all movement in the body. So it's primarily air and spirit. And the Kapha dosha is the earth element. Okay, so if you have earth dominating in your body, read through the Kapha dosha description. That's probably going to resonate with you deeply. Um, but either one, whether you look at your astrological breakdown or your ayurvedic breakdown, or you look at both, um, I have found both approaches to be really helpful in terms of which elements actually live strongly in your own body. And the elements that live strongly in your own body, you're going to have the easiest time communicating with, connecting with, understanding. You're gonna, if you have fire present in your body, you're going to understand what that candle flame is saying to you when it suddenly gets really tall or it goes out unexpectedly, because you have that same element in your own body. You're going to be able to hear what it's saying to you much easier. If you have earth in your body, more than anything else, if you're a kapha dosha, then burying something, leaving something at a tree, working with dirt from certain places is going to be a great way for you to get your work done. And you're going to be able to understand what it's telling you when you go out into the woods and you're asking yourself, what tree should I leave this at? Or where should I pick some flowers from? Or what herb should I work with? That's going to speak to you really easily because that earth element is in your literal body. You're going to hear it much more clearly. So astrology body types are ways to find, or astrology breakdowns are ways to find out what elements are strongest in your self, essentially. And Ayurveda is the other way. The Ayurvedic body types, and the concept of elemental body types is not unique to Ayurveda. You guys, if you have been here for a while, you know that Hindu mysticism has informed a lot of my spiritual practice, learning about yoga, learning about meditation from a Hindu perspective, etc., has just been a lot of the things that I study. So when I learned about Ayurveda, I was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. But Chinese medicine, African medicine practices, like the concept of body type is not unique to like Hindus. Um, so whatever system makes sense to you, definitely check that out. Yes, yes. Did you enjoy that? My Better Witches, for those of you who are not enrolled in the Better Witch Magic Intensive, one of the things that the Better Witches get as a special offer during the first or second module is they get a significantly discounted soul mapping reading with Alexis, which is usually like a 300 and change process, because it's a whole like, this girl does like a week of work of deep diving into who you are and then sits down and breaks it all down for you. But you get a really good discount on soul mapping. So I'm glad you took advantage of that, Leslin. Oh, Takara has a question, Leslin. Where did you pull your Eastern chart from? That's a great question, because I always pull my Western on Cafe Astrology. I don't think they do Vedic on Cafe Astrology. So is there a particular site that you used for that? Drop the T, Witches Helping Witches. Yeah, exactly. That too. That too. So taking into consideration what the work is and what the situation is, and also it may not be the case that you need to deviate completely from that. You might need to modify it. So, for example, a hot foot spell. The hot foot is this is just a great like example to keep working with. So the hot foot is usually made. Hoodoo is very much about contact. It's a very contact based type of magic. If you can't get to somebody, then yeah, you can take a picture and a candle and da da da. But if you can get that, you want to make a powder, make a mojo bag, make a something, and you want to get it to the person, get the powder under their feet or on the back of their neck or over their head or into their car or get the mojo bag into their purse or whatever. It's very contact. Usually you are deploying the powder in a place where somebody's going to interact with it. And when hot foot spells, hot foot powders, I have seen go from fairly mild, some red brick dust, some cayenne, some hot chilies, kind of a thing, some cinnamon, hot, but just hot, to downright sinister, where we're folding in the powdered bodies of red ants or even whole red ants, clove, um, like ghost peppers, scotch bonnets, all the way up to the dirt of criminals, murderers, um, arsonists, people who burn shit down, right? So you can go from like a kind of herbal based sort of general hot foot all the way up to nasty work. Nasty work. So you start with the base and then you can decide how hot we need to make that hot foot based on what you are working with, right? You're a Cappadocia, Leslie. That's cool. Ah, you didn't pull your Eastern chart. Alexis did it in the breakdown. Okay, y'all. Hit up Alexis. Hit up Alexis. I'm gonna ask her where she got where she did her. She probably doesn't use the site, honestly. She probably does it herself. That's the whole point of going to Alexis is I am not an astrologer. So I'm gonna go to a website, I'm gonna go to an app and then, do the best that I can. She's actually breaking down and researching and doing all this stuff. When she did mine, it took her 2 weeks. And she was like, I remember she was like, oh, can I, I'd like to, basically it's like a thank you to me for like hiring her at the shop. She's like, I'd love to do this for you, on the house. I want to, do your soul mapping or what have you. I'm working on this offering. And I was like, yeah, of course. I would love to have that done by you. I wouldn't let just anybody do that, by the way. But I was like, yeah, I trust you. I'd love to have you do that. So I gave her my necessary information. And then, like, a week later, she came to me and she was like, sorry, it's taking me a while. I've just been really busy. I just have a little bit more work to do. And then I'll be able to tell you sit down with you and give you a report. And I was like, bitch, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? I could have plugged this in the cafe astrology. It would take 10 seconds. What are you doing? Then I sat with her and I was with her for an hour and a half. And I was like, oh, this is different. This is different. So yeah, that was good to have an astrologer friend. It's good to have a witch friend and an astrologer friend. Have those in your pocket because you never know. All right. I turn to Alexis all the time to be like, girl, is something going on? Is Mercury in microbraids? Is Saturn doing something weird? Because I had this going on. I had this dream, da 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 da. And she'd be like, oh, yeah, such and such has just moved into Capricorn and da 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 da. And I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. Appreciate it. So that's good to have. And then I'm her witch friend because she'll come to me and she'll be like, so I wanted to do this spell, but I wasn't sure. Do you think I should use acromancy? Or you think I should use devil's claw? And I'm like, well, let me tell you what I think. Or she'll come to me a lot for hoodoo stuff, even though I am not a hoodoo. I do not consider myself a hoodoo. I do believe that hoodoo is a closed practice and there are initiations and things that need to be done to properly be a part of that community. Though I am influenced by hoodoo practices and work due to my ancestry. But she will come to me for stuff like that because she's Latina. So she will be like, I was feeling called to Prince High John, but girl, is that appropriative? Can I do that? What's the deal? So have yourself an astrologer friend, have yourself a witch friend. And that is what the Coven community is all about, because there are plenty of astrologers and witches and people in this space now, 100 people in the community, and everybody has their own areas of expertise, of interest, things they've read, things they've learned about, things that they've studied, and we can all learn from each other. Okay, so one of the blessings I think of this space, never learn from just one person, never isolate yourself and try to figure it all out on your own. It's just not necessary. Two heads are better than one. So why go on this journey the hard way? Why go on it the long way of trial and error, figuring it out? Take advantage of the fact that this internet thing makes it easier for you to meet people that are like you. And don't be passive about it. Don't just sign up and sit back. Well, I don't have to really tell y'all that. Y'all are in here, y'all are active. But you probably see there's plenty of people in the coven that maybe pop in once in a while or really never come in. And that's really unfortunate because they're missing out on I'm happy to have them there. I'm grateful that they're there. But I would love for them to take more advantage of the space because they're probably out there as a solitary practitioner figuring stuff out on their own and not really thinking like, wait a minute, there's like dozens of witches that I could ask this question to. And even if nobody gives me an answer that I'm happy with, I don't have to figure it out on my own. My arm looks really. You guys, I wish I could say that this is like my arm being buff from like working out. I literally think my right arm is getting bigger than my left arm because of how much I have to use my phone. Isn't that a shame? That's okay though. I've made peace with the fact that I want to be famous. And so that just means I'm going to be on my phone a lot because I got to be posting and like telling the world what I'm doing because they want to know. So I'm going to have to start doing like arm workouts on my left side. Literally. Guess I got to be doing more left-handed work. So I'm strong on both sides. Yeah, any questions about working with your elements? We talked about taking the energy of the work into consideration to determine which elements you might want to include in the actual type of spell that you do. We talked about how you can determine which elements are strong within yourself in your own makeup, so you know which elements you probably are going to have an easier time manipulating and working with. We talked about what elements are. What they are the building blocks of the natural world. So when we're talking about the 7 layers of existence that we want to get in alignment of our intention, our elements are related to the physical level. Okay. And I think real quick, I guess before I let you go, I'll just mention elementals because you might see that in your studies and that might be a little confusing, especially if you're doing readings about Wicca or neo-pagan magic. So let's talk about elementals. The elementals are not elements. They are spirits that are said to rule those elements and the directions that correspond with them. So there are salamanders, there are sylphs, undines, and gnomes. Salamanders rule fire and the direction of south. The gnomes rule earth in the direction of north. The undines are the water and the direction of west, and the sylphs are east and air. And they are spirits in their own right that are essentially of the Fae world. They are like of the unseen beings. When we say salamanders, we're not literally talking about lizards. We're talking about more of like a Fae type of lizard like creature that is considered to be a ruler of that element and that direction. And so, if you are doing ceremonial magic or you are doing Wiccan magic, then you might be instructed when casting circles, when calling on the directions, or when honoring the directions to give honor to the elementals or to call the elementals in for assistance. So, if I were doing some type of a working or ritual where I wanted to call on the the energy of fire itself, not use the element of fire, but call on the correspondent to the energy of fire, then I might call on the spirits of the salamanders to be present in my work and to be like assistants. They're more in the category of spirits than spirit. Um, and when you are doing a Wiccan ritual, you are typically going to start that ritual or start your spell by first casting a circle of both of protection and also just to create a container for the energy that you are raising, a sacred space, a portal of communication for the intention that you're setting. And it is traditional in Wiccan practice to set up that circle and honor the four directions around the circle and ask for the representatives of those four directions to be present. In ceremonial magic, you usually do this with something called the LBRP, the lower banishing rite of the pentacle, and you call on the archangels that are said to rule over the elements and the directions. In Wiccan magic, instead of the archangels, you're doing the same thing, but instead of calling on the archangels, you're more likely going to call on the elementals. Okay. Yep, exactly. So when learning about the LBRP, you're gonna potentially learn about the elementals. I think like the really fancy original LBRP though calls on the archangels by their Latin names. Newer versions of the LBRP might also fold in more modern neo-pagan concepts of the elementals, but I don't think the elementals are as old as like the first uses of the LBRP. Ask the Thelemites about that. They'll know. Oh, I love that. I'm a fire sign, so it's always the hellbender salamander for me if I'm calling on the elementals, which I used to do a lot more in my early Wiccan days when I was casting circles much more regularly and casting circles according to Wiccan, instructions. And I'm a little bit more of like how they call like non-religious Jews, secular Jews, because they just like do the holidays and like the basic stuff. That's kind of me. I'm kind of like a secular Wiccan these days because a lot of the more formal rituals I don't do according to like Gardnerian Wiccan instruction the way I used to. I still draw down the moon, but I don't follow all the steps. I still create sacred space before I begin a spell working, but I don't cast a whole circle necessarily. Every once in a while, I still, depending on what I'm doing, feel like that's necessary, and I'll go through the whole ritual of calling in the corners and honoring the elementals and calling on their presence. And I'll make sure to open my circle before going through it, and the whole shebang. But the need for that happens a little bit less. Yeah. Yeah, that's totally understandable. Yeah, the casting of the circle is definitely something that Wiccans took from ceremonial magicians, for sure. It's a very ceremonial aspect. For me, Wicca is like a combination between ceremonial magic and folk magic. There's a lot of ceremonial ritual practice, but that leaves space for a lot of folk stuff, whereas ceremonial magic really kind of poo-poos on folk practice. So everything's very formal, everything's very, buttoned up and ritualistic and all of that stuff. And Wicca's more like, here are the fancy rituals, but also like if you just want to like make a powder, you do that too. Mm. So it's, to me, it's like a mix between the two. And I remember one of the first times that I was working with Santa Marta, who is not a folk spirit necessarily, but is definitely not a Wiccan spirit. And I was getting ready to cast Circle, and literally, when I tell you, I don't typically hear spirit voices. I don't have clairaudience. I'm a little jealous, but I don't have clairaudience. I don't hear them. But when I tell you, I heard in my ear where she was like, "Don't do that Wiccan shit." Literally. And I was like, "Oh, okay, no Circle." She was like, "No." She had me barefoot, crouched down on the floor, pouring powders and, mixing things on a plate. And I think there was a chicken foot involved. And, it was that kind of a thing, which is cool. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. Okay. That's fine. She was like, you don't got to do that cast circles. Don't dry shit over here. So, yeah. At the end of the day, that's what a circle is supposed to be doing. Whether you're doing it in the very formalized ceremonial way or you're doing it in a much more casual kind of conscious way. At the end of the day, what you are doing is you are establishing a sacred space. And we talk about this in module 5 of the Better Witch Intensive, what it means to create a sacred space and what it does. It's a portal. It's an energetic opening. It's all about, remember that avenue I was talking about? It's a space where everything is happening in alignment of your intention and where other energies, the argument somebody had earlier, or, dirt in the house, or something that you tracked in from work or whatever, is not there. We've cleansed this space and we've made this space a purified opening from this world into the unseen world. And it is a space where we can raise our own energy and shoot it right off into the universe for a clear announcement of what it is that we want and a pathway for it to come back down to us. And how you do it doesn't matter. How you do it doesn't matter, right? If you were trying to make a hole in a wall, you could sit there with a level and tape measure and a pencil and you could carve it out exactly. And then you could take a chisel and neatly do the edges and poke out what you needed. Or you could fucking take a bulldozer and knock a hole in it. You're going to get a hole in the wall either way. So how you approach it is far less important than understanding why you're doing it. Okay? We're casting circles. We're creating sacred space, not just because somebody else said to do it. We're doing it because we are trying to actually create a container for what we are working that is different from other places in the world. We're making a space where it's easy for what we want to be heard on the other side of the universe and for it to come back down to us. Yes, she had me hissing and moving around and doing all kinds of stuff. It was the first time that I had worked with her too, so it was very much like, what's happening? Why am I slithering around in my living room floor? Especially for a Wiccan who hadn't worked with a spirit like that and was just stepping into like hoodoo and more African spirituality based practices. I was like, what am I doing? This is not, usually I'm in like a flowy robe and I've got like my sword and my wand and like I'm doing things differently. This is different. I'm like running to the fridge and grabbing things and like pulling stuff off of plants. And yeah, at some point there was some hissing happening and it was different. But very educational for me, aside from the fact that the spell worked. It was also very important for me to see like, okay, learning about other types of magic, even if they're not, like learning about hoodoo, even though I am not a hoodoo, is important because it might serve me to connect with certain spirits that speak that language. And if I want to work with a spirit that doesn't speak the language of Wicca, I might have a disconnect. And you may have experienced that, where you might have tried to use the rituals or the instructions that you learned from one tradition and call in a deity from over here or a spirit from over there or something like that and try to mix it in, and it doesn't seem to hit. And it's because they don't speak that language. I was trying to use tarot to communicate with my ancestors, and they sent me playing cards because they were like, babe, we don't speak that language. We see that you're trying to talk to us, but you're talking a language we don't really speak. So I don't read playing cards. To this day, I don't read playing cards. I have to use a guidebook every time I sit down with them and pull cards. But that's the language that they speak. So just like somebody with a little translator dictionary, and if you went to Italy and you don't speak Italian, you've got your little dictionary. That's what I have to do with them because they speak the language of playing cards. I don't speak it fluently. I speak tarot fluently. I don't speak playing cards fluently, so I have to use my little translator book. And ain't no shame in the game. At the end of the day, I got to do what I got to do to communicate with them in the language that they speak. Because I'd rather sit there with my little guidebook than not get the message. Yeah, okay. Yes. A purification of the self before magic is done. I like that. Okay, so Nisi works with the LBRP. Very cool. Very cool. Oh yes. Okay, June's got it. Thank you, June. The gnomes, the gnomes, the undines, the salamanders, and the sylphs. And Takara, I know you've been learning about Wicca. You'll definitely see that in Wiccan books, especially the older ones. You get some Cunningham or some Buckland books. You're going to see the elementals, particularly in any chapters about casting circle. And these spirits are spirits of these elements. They're not the elements themselves. I love this. We've gotten to cover so much stuff, which is good. We talked about the Christians in the comments because on them. We talked about the M13 tarot deck. Get excited for a giveaway and some cool reels about the deck of the super rare 1 out of 300 of the original printing. We talked about Black Herman and this process of not only venerating a very important hoodoo man, but essentially creating a folk saint, which is like, I don't know how many times in a generation a folk saint actually gets created and elevated to that position. The candles, the prayer cards, and his book are on the way to the shop. Be on the lookout in April for that. Whether you're on my mailing list or the shop mailing list, I'm definitely going to be posting about it because I'm probably going to make some videos or drop some, maybe repost a live with Brother Moses to share my experience in the graveyard and basically just give you guys as much information about Black Herman, my experience in the graveyard, his life, what he can do for us, and all of that good stuff as possible. And then there'll be a pre-order probably around the beginning, first week of April. For those of you who would like to petition him for work. And remember, that is what he wants. So please don't buy the candle, the card, or the book to just show support. If you can't think of a reason why you would want a powerful conjure man spirit to do some work for you, leave it for the next switch because I'm going to have a limited amount of everything. Okay, so if you think you're going to buy it and just leave it on your shelf just because you want to support, I would not do that. He does not want charity. He wants you to get that candle, get that card, and call on him to do something for you. He wants to earn the title of folk saint for conjure workers. So um, do it, and let's compile the stories. Yes, I think we should make like a website, or not a website, but like a landing page on the website. I'll talk to Brother Moses about it. He might want to do it on his site and like link all of ours or something like that. But there should be like a Black Hermit information page where we share the story, share our pictures of the graveyard, the pictures that Doc Cosmic made of making the powder. He's posted, we've all posted some of this on our pages, but like we need to compile it all together in one page, tell the history of this man, our relationship to him. And then I think it would be really great to have everybody's stories. So everybody who gets a candle or gets his book and casts one of his spells or lights a candle and petitions him, what were your results? And like, let's add to his canon, basically, of work. What has Black Herman done? What are his successful workings? We have his successful workings in life as a magician, the spells he was able to pull off, the illusions he was able to pull off on stage. Now we'll have his canon of work in the afterlife. What was he able to pull off for people? What of his legend came through for people? I think that would be cool. And then we could read it, and read everybody's stories. I called on Black Herman for this. And in this amount of time, this is what happened. I went to Black Herman's book and he had a spell on this. I used it. This is what happened. I think it would be really cool to collect everybody's stories. The Undanes are my girls. Love them in divination, emotional healing, and dream work. That's beautiful. You're probably going to collect deeply with the Undanes. For those of you who are water signs, interested in mermaids, if you feel connected to mermaids, to sirens, La Serene, Mami Wata, those water spirits, Yemaya even, you probably feel really connected to the elementals. I was a Wiccan teen before ATRs and foot practice took over. That's like everybody's story. I'm like one of the weirdos that like started with Wicca and like kind of just kept rocking with it, even after learning about other things. Wicca is definitely the gateway drug to witching, for sure. It is the gateway drug. I just wish people wouldn't poo-poo on it after they leave. Like, listen, Wicca's not for everybody, okay? I get it. It's got a lot of its own, like, issues, okay? It is not for everybody. But don't be poo-pooing on it, because you wouldn't be out here witching if it wasn't for Wicca. And if it wasn't for all of these people who have written on Wicca, if it wasn't for the Silver Raven Wolves and the Bucklands and the Cunninghams and the Valientes and all of those people that were writing about Wicca in the 80s and 90s and the 70s even, the Starhawks and all of them, and Z Budapest, that bitch, and all of those people, you would not be here. So stop it, because there was not enough information on a lot of these practices, like written down, up until now. So don't be poo-pooing on the Wiccans. They gave you your start. People want to be poo-pooing on the Wiccans. Oh, the Love and Light crew. Oh my God. Oh, Wicca. Listen, bitch. Okay. Yeah. I mean, because they provide a great, what Wicca did was it took things that people would only learn in their households and through families and made it systemized and accessible to everybody. It kind of pulled a bunch of stuff together and distilled them down to their elements and then simplified it. And that is problematic because a lot of appropriation happened with the whole pulling from here, pulling from there, pulling from there. And it's problematic because the oversimplification of these things took away some of the deeper understanding about why they work in the first place. But if you know that about Wicca, if you understand that those are some of its inherent flaws, then you're able to navigate around that and see the usefulness of some of the ways in which they constructed things. So, very much the gateway drug, for sure. Shonda feels like they're being called by water spirits. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Learn more about the Undines as a spirit of water in general, but also water spirits like La Sarine and Mami Wata and Yamaya. Um, um, of all backgrounds, I'm rattling off mostly like ATR ones right now, but from anywhere. Sarasvati, wherever you feel connected, learn more about these water beings, spirits, deities. Yeah, June be channeling messages for people, y'all. So don't be surprised if you get a word that happens. It's a part of their path. It's just what they're here for. So I'll post about how the craft is in all love and light. No, um, I think people really took the last line of the Wiccan read and really ran with it, and almost in a way took it more seriously even than the original Wiccans did. That's just a line from a poem. Um, and later Wiccans really were like, we don't harm anybody, and we're all about the love and the light stuff. But the original Wiccans weren't really necessarily so like big on that. Um, the type of Wicca that Gerald Gardner was practicing was not all love and light, particularly on the like sexual aspect. A lot of sex rituals and sort of freaky stuff going on. um, so yeah, but more modern Wiccans of like the 80s, 70s, 80s, early 90s. It was a lot of like love and light. Wiccans are good witches, they're white witches, da 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 da. But understand where that was coming from. You're looking at a group of people that was trying to actively change the perception of what a witch was. Realize that in England, witchcraft was illegal, criminally illegal until 1951, you guys. This is not medieval 1800s. Is that the medieval time? 1500, 1600. This is not, we're talking 1951. My mother was born in 1941 and she's still alive. Okay, so 1951, England repealed its witchcraft criminal laws, right? So this is very recent that folks in the Western world have been trying to change the narrative of witchcraft and witches as being something negative. So, understandably, they're going to go super far in the positive direction, right? They're going to not talk about the the dark things that can be done with witchcraft. They're not going to talk about hexes and curses. They're not going to want to talk about any of that stuff, and they're going to want to act like that stuff is bad because they're trying to convince people that witchcraft is about something more positive than what people expect, or think. And so, if you're trying to convince somebody that something is all one way, you can't be in the middle. Because that's going to be confusing, and people of course are going to look at the dark things that you do and say, "See? No, I said I knew that stuff was about the devil. I knew that stuff was dangerous. I knew that stuff was evil." So they were trying to change the perception. So I give a lot of kudos to them. That the witches of the 80s and 90s were so love and light. Because if we've made any progress whatsoever towards modern society, like today's society, looking at witches as a positive thing, or at least not being super fucking scared of us and wanting to drive us out of their towns with pitchforks and put us in jail, we owe them for that. We owe them for that, for helping to convince people that are in their 20s and 30s and early 40s that witches are good. We wouldn't have had shows like Charmed, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer and stuff like that if it wasn't for the Wiccans of the 80s and 90s swearing up and down that witchcraft had nothing to do with anything dark or negative or harmful, and that it was actually anti-witch to be doing stuff like that. They were cap, but they were trying to do something, So I get it. They would not have made the advancements that we have if they were honest about witchcraft being about duality and yin and yang and the balance of light and dark. You know what I'm saying? Christianity takes a very hard stance that there is no balance of light and dark. There's one side and then there's the other side. And the other side is demons and that's bad. And the one side is good and God and angels and that's good. So you trying to explain to people that actually life is balanced, that the universe has no morality, does not define things in terms of good or bad, and that light and dark don't mean good or evil, but are two sides of one coin, you're not going to get a Christian-based society to see that as an okay thing. So you can't talk like that. And now we're moving back to the middle. After they went all the way to the light side, we're now moving back to the middle, where nowadays it's a little bit easier to be a witch and say light and dark are parts of the universe that need to be in balance, and therefore my life and my practice is a balance of light and dark, and not have people be like, you're balanced with dark? Get out of here. Now we can kind of talk more openly and more honestly about the things that we do and have people realize that it doesn't mean evil or demonic in the Christian framework. So I understand where the early Wiccans were coming from, even though they made a little bit of, they made things a little muddy, a little confusing. Yeah, exactly. Like you're trying to fight these powers that are trying to oppress you and trying to literally make your existence illegal. You can't be like, well, sometimes I'm light, sometimes I'm dark based on what I need to do. They're like, what? You say what now? Right? You have to be like, no, we don't do that. That's actually anti what we do. We're all this thing. Please don't drive us out of town with torches. Just trying to live. What I did for the young lady that called me about the fucking creepy stalker that had her mother's address, what I did for my old high school friend to keep her neighbors from trashing her lawn, these are things that would have gotten me imprisoned or worse, that people of the Christian ideology would say are devilish or demonic, but I literally just potentially saved somebody's life. Like, no exaggeration. This man is killing animals and talking about, I found your mother's address, and showing her the address. Is that really dark? Technically, I called on darker spirits. I did a darker work. I interfered with somebody's free will and brought pain and discomfort into their lives should they make any more advancements in her direction. But is that evil? Well, because I didn't do it in the name of Jesus, according to the Christians, yes, it would be. But I would absolutely 100% do it again 1,000 times over. 1,000 times over. And I'll do it again. And I would do it again. And I was talking about this. Oh, guess what, you guys? I'm going to treat you guys to a surprise live next week. Next week, Sunday. It's not a surprise anymore now, you know. But it's not a high tea live. It's going to be on Instagram, most likely. I'm going to try to figure out if I could stream it to YouTube too, but it might just be on Instagram because it's going to be with my homegirl, and she really does Instagram. She doesn't do YouTube. Her name is Tasha. She lives in the UK. We've been becoming friends over the last few years, and we have so many similarities. It's freaking crazy. We're both adopted. We both have a very similar outlook on how we look at life. We have similar, like, spousal relationships. Our partners are very similar. You know, my soon to be ex-husband, her now ex as well. Like, we just have a lot in common. And she is she works with dark divine feminine energies, with Lilith, with Santa Muerte. Those are her deities, goddesses, whatever you want to call it. She's a devotee of them. She works with them very heavily. And we were just talking about this because we're probably going to talk about this topic a little bit with you guys when we go live together. But you know, she was saying, listen, when her clients come to her for work and they have somebody who's a physical danger to them, that she's not calling on light spirits. She's not calling on angels and soft fuzzy bunny spirits. She's calling on the heavy hitters because you need some serious protection. You know what I'm saying? You need a warrior energy. And the Christians would call them dark and demonic. The Jews would demonize them as dark and demonic, but these are not bad spirits in this very small good bad concept. These are spirits that you want to have relationships with, just like any other. You know what I'm saying? We all need a hitter in the crew. Okay, not everybody can be all fuzzy gumdrops. And Tasha gave a great analogy. The way she said it was, the way she describes it to her clients, because she does get clients that are hesitant. She says she gets a lot of white clients and a lot of like new age pagan clients that are like, no, you know, like, can we just bless my stalker away? You know, can we just like pour light into it? And she's like, look, honey, if you have a tub of black paint and you want to make it gray or make it white even, think of how much white paint you have to add. The black is just going to swallow that white paint right up. But if you have a tub of white paint and you put just a couple drops of black paint in it, immediately now it begins turning gray. Black energy, dark energy, whatever you want to call it, is potent. It's potent. And when you have a situation that requires that level of potency, you are going to potentially be fighting an uphill battle if you're trying to pour white energy into a dark situation. So some guy is sending you pictures of animals that he's mutilated, talking about, I know your address. I'm sorry. I'm not calling on the angels to help with this one. Okay. Good night, Leslyn. Yeah, we're going to wrap up here in a minute too. It's my bedtime too now. So yeah, so we're going to go live on Instagram. I'm going to try to find a way to maybe stream it to YouTube as well, but it's not a coven exclusive. This is she's not in the coven. I should probably tell her to get in the coven. She is just a friend of mine, and we have like these really great catch up sessions. She's in the UK, so it's like 5 hours off. So like in the middle of the night, we're like on the phone talking about witchcraft and spirits. And she was just coming to me recently for some advice on going to the graveyard, because she's got to go to the graveyard for something, but she moved to an urban environment, and she used to have a graveyard. She used to live in like a more rural area, and she had a woman that she would go to for her graveyard dirt. And she doesn't live near that woman anymore. She's got to go get her own. And she was like, hey, I need some advice on like sneaking up in this graveyard. Like, what can you tell me? So I was giving her some tips. And then I go to her for stuff too, because the shadow work that I'm doing and connecting with some of the darker spirits and aspects that I want to work with and have relationships with, she is works with all the time. So she was giving me some guidance there. So it's really important, really great to have witchy friends. So I love that you guys talk to each other in the chat. I love that you guys talk to each other in the feed. Continue to do that and be active about making relationships. She and I didn't become friends passively. We both have been making the effort to find time in our busy lives to watch each other's lives, to message each other, to schedule time. We will schedule phone calls 2 weeks out because we're busy. But I'll be like, look, Saturday night, I can call you at 9. It'll be like 3 in the morning there. You'll be just about to go to bed. We'll call, we'll coordinate that. But we're both actively trying to build a friendship with each other. And so you have to do that, especially as adults. You're not in school anymore where friendships come easily because you spend, 8 hours of the day sitting next to the same person, passing notes and getting to know each other. As adults, our lives pull us apart, and we have to be way more active if we want to have friends as adults and make new friends. So continue to talk to each other in the feed and be actively cultivating these connections, because I tell you, having witchy friends that you can call up for shit, that you can message about things, that you can do things together, is a huge blessing, and it makes a huge difference, especially for solitary practitioners that don't have a ready-made coven or spiritual house of people that they can just kind of fall into friendships with. So very grateful for all of you guys. Very grateful for the coven space, for the feed, a place where we can all talk to each other. And yeah, the next high tea will be right here, but it'll be a little bit later. Okay, it'll be around midnight. After the Witches of Color support group, we're going to meet at the witching hour and talk about working with the dead. I'll tell you a little bit more about my experience in the graveyard with Black Herman. I'll tell you about some of my other experiences in the graveyard, because I be up in there. And protocol, things to keep in mind, best practices, things to avoid, reasons for being there in the first place. And all of that good stuff. So if you are interested in working with the dead or just knowing more about it, definitely make sure to tune into that High Tea Live. If you're not able to tune in because it's late at night, the replay will be available on my YouTube channel. But if you want to actually be a part of the conversation, then you've got to be in the coven. And yeah, we'll get into it. Working with the dead. Where is the main chat? The main chat, you mean the next high tea? What do you mean by that? I am going to be honest with you, Nerd Fighter Life. I don't know how you found this live. How did you infiltrate from YouTube? This live is unlisted on YouTube. How did you get here? Oh, sneaky. This is unlisted. Oh, you know what? Maybe it's because it's in the High Tea Live playlist. I don't know how you got here, but good job. The main chat where people are talking is on StreamYard. And that is accessible through the coven. So you have to join the coven, okay? So go to the description of this live and you will see the coven thing. My email in the coven on a different email. Oh, yeah, you got in through the playlist? Okay, smart. That was smart. Okay, don't tell other people. I should add it to the playlist after the broadcast, because the video is unlisted. But if you put an unlisted video on a public playlist, you can still see it. So maybe I'll put them in after. But yeah, your email in the coven is on a different email. Yeah, you're gonna want to go into the Coven feed and go into events. And under events are all of our virtual events that are exclusive for Coven members. And click on the StreamYard link, and then you'll be in the stream. And you'll have an icon with a little duck on it instead of the YouTube icon. And you'll be able to get in, because next time I'm not going to put it in the playlist till after. So you're not going to be able to do this again. But that just means you were supposed to be here. So probably just to get these instructions so that you don't miss out on our necromancy conversation next month. So, but let's see what else. I think that's about it, y'all. I think I didn't see any other questions. So that's all the updates. That is my what I know about working with the elements in magical crafting. Of course, if you do have questions, the replay will be on YouTube, so you can always drop them in the comments. And yeah, stick around for next month's High Tea Live. I'm excited to get into that. By that point, we'll have candles in, well, we might already be out of candles by then, but potentially we'll have the Black Herman stuff in the shop. So if I can maybe show them in the live as well. But I'll be posting and sending out emails way before that. Like next week I start talking about it on the shop mailing list, on my mailing list, on our IG pages, getting people excited for the candles to arrive. Brother Moses and Doc Cosmic are in Sweden doing spell work. So that's why I have to wait to get the candles, because those two got flued out by somebody to do spell work for them in Sweden. I was like, okay, I want to get flued out for some spell work. Yes. All right, living the life. I was like, really? That's what you guys are doing next week? They were like, yeah, we have to wait till we get back to send you the candles because we're getting flued out to Sweden to do some spell work for a client. I'm like, oh, shit. That's how y'all living? So when they get back from Sweden, witching around the world, they'll be sending me the 2 cases of candles. Flued the fuck right out. Flued out. You know? How witchy is that, though? Because bad bitches always talk about getting flued out, and it is not for that. They get flued out for other reasons. And listen, ain't no shame in that game. I wouldn't mind getting flued out for that too. Just fly me out. I just want to be flued out for whatever we're gonna do. Okay. I've never flown anywhere where I haven't paid for the ticket. So fly me out. But how witchy is that they got flued out to Sweden to do spell work and do some casting for somebody? I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty dope. I might have to go back to doing spell work for people if that's how we live in these days. My clients ain't never flew me out. So that was back in the day. Maybe things have changed. You know, happy the Swedes heard of them. Yeah, they've been doing what Doc Cosmic is a lifelong practitioner. He's actually a youth minister, so he's an ordained minister. Comes from a family of practitioners down in the South. So he was born into this. And then Brother Moses is of like Persian Hebrew descent. So he has like a family history of like Kabbalistic type magic, but then has educated himself on African religions with he has a master's in African religions or African studies. I think African religions. He has a master's. So they have a very wide reach. It says I'm already enrolled, but then says no access. Weirdly, are you paying? Are you paying $9.99 a month? If you're not, then you probably don't have full access. Lo siento. The Coven is a paid space. You do get a free trial though, so I might consider ending that enrollment or signing up with a different email address and starting your trial over, you can use my code ALYLIVE and you'll get your whole first month free. So usually it's a 7-day trial, but this code will give you a whole month free. So try using that code. I got in early and every time I try to pay, it says I'm already in. But then it says I haven't paid. Well, yeah, if you're trying to pay and it's not letting you, then you're not paying. So that might be why. Send an email to me and Alexis. Alexis is the portal administrator, and Nuri is the coven moderator. But I can have Alexis look into that for you to see what that is all about. You might need to sign up with a different email address. Maybe there's some type of a glitch, but email us first and we'll look into it on the back end. Maybe there's something we can like restart for you. Okay, but you might need to start over. Send an email there. Good night, Shonda. Okay, but we'll get you right. You know what I'm saying? So you don't miss next month's high tea. Okay, so just email us. We'll figure this out. All right, witches, it's my bedtime. It is the full moon in about 4 hours. So I am going to go and prepare. All of last year, and I believe the year before that, my ritual has been to fast on the new moon and take a spiritual bath on the full moon. But Spirit went and flipped everything around on me. And now I am doing the reverse. So I am fasting on the full moon, starting with tomorrow's full moon, and taking my spiritual baths on the new moon. And the Hecate class proved to be very helpful for that particular change. That gave me some ideas. But so I'm going to go have a snack before the full moon hits because I'm going to be hungry tomorrow. Okay, so I'm going to have a snack real quick. So I got to let y'all go. All right. Yay. Thank you, Takara. Appreciate it. Really glad that everybody was here. It was great to see you all. Have a beautiful rest of the night. All right. Have a beautiful one. Blessed be.